Let's see if I have it right. Well, I'm not sure, but I think I got it right. How is everybody? Yep, it looks like it is working right where it's supposed to be. So, hey, it is a fantastic day. I'll take that as a victory. And yeah, there I am. So it's cool. It's all fine. Yeah. Da 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 da. It's like they're training us like rats, you know. The system was working just fine, but they're going to give us another little pellet if we can go around the corner and go through the little yeah. But anyone, welcome everybody. Thank you for dropping in, tuning in and turning on. That's the best way to look at it. The smile on your face, song in your heart, and I'm going to tell you it's going to be all right. Speaking favor upon us. In favor just simply means you get like the best. Doesn't mean that, you know, you don't face the trials and the piles with smiles, you know. It riles them to believe that you perceive that you are real. But yeah, but the favorite thing is that it's like working all the time. If you have a propensity for being like lucky, um, favor adds to it. So anyway, that's what's meant by that. And that's not a bad thing. How can anyone get upset over that? And nothing missing, nothing broken. As a hippie, I can tell you. Wish we knew that a little bit better. We had the peace thing down, peace and love. I mean, you know, all of y'all remember if you were back in that age, going to the festivals and the concerts. Anyway, peace. That's the way I say it. And be kind to your mind. Uh, so what's up, everybody? Good to see everyone in the chat room. Go, go. What's up? Good to see you. Hello, Lauren. Hello. Good to see you. Hello, Nina. Yeah, I'm wearing some of let me tell you, these are great hoodies. Yeah. Soft, comfortable. Um, and they get noticed. You go out in public, people look at it, because it's yeah, interesting the way that the logo is. And it takes a minute. You go and go, oh, okay, that's two people. Yeah. So be of service to others. Yeah. And if the holiday season, Saturnalia is coming up, you know, that special time, where the earth and the sun, you know, kind of stays in this, like 3 day thing. And boom, the days start getting longer. Before you know it, we'll be talking and it's going to be, 16 hours of daylight, right? Anyway, Lost in Space, what's up? Good to see you. Hello, Gaia. A generation who drank from the hose. We did. Boy, did we ever. It's great growing up. And we didn't have the internet. You know, there was a time where, I was really poor, and we had a television, but the television was not like the center of everything. We were working too much. God, my brother and I moved tons of garbage. One garbage can at a time. But you know what? Did me good. Yeah. Hotter than hell. Nothing like being out in the Texas Gulf Plains in the middle of June, July, and August, September, October, you know, and it does get cold. But anyway, Max, what's up? Good to see you as well. Elderberry, hello, Graham. Good to see you as well. Loretta, what's up? Hi, Deborah. How are you? Max, how are you doing, my friend? Speaking favor to you as well. So I go back there. Hello, Felix. What's up? Maria, good to see you. And let's see, I just don't want to forget everybody. So, St. Nina says Boston. And I'm just reading. Mary, how are you? Good to see you as well. As I kind of scroll back there, CJ, good to see you. Ba, 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 bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. So, Jed, good to see you, Doug. And anyway, if I've missed you, hey, thank you anyway. Good to see you. So, what's going on? Enjoyed yesterday. Yesterday was a challenge, but we persevered. And Jenny, love you, darling. I mean, just uh technical difficulties. It kind of tells me that, something's going on. Something's going on with the system, with the matrix. And I don't know if they've done an update, if we've changed timelines again. Have they remember the movie Dark City? Had a great cast to it, and if you ever get a chance, go watch it because it is something to deal with what we're going to be dealing with. We have amnesia, humans. We don't know why we're here. We don't know how we got here. We don't know how old we are. We don't know how it all began. And in the movie Dark City, of those of you who remember, um, it was a city, you know, cars, subways, the whole bit. But it was a city that had been taken over by an old, very ancient, intelligent race. And they would, at midnight, they would start the tuning. And these aliens would get together. And when they started tuning at the same frequency, they had one human that they used, and he was a professor. Trying to remember his name right at the moment. It's not important. But so at midnight, they would stop reality. They would stop time. And when you stop time, it's not missing time because there's no time. And it froze all of us humans. And they would play this game where they would choose certain people. In one example, there was this couple, and the guy was obviously working somewhere like in the sewer or something because he was, dirty, and they were poor. And when the tuning started, as if you've seen the movie, they injected them with new memories. And in the new memory, they were multimillionaires. Buildings would change, addresses would change, people sometimes would change, sometimes they wouldn't. And when the tuning stopped, then time began again, but with the new memories. And that's the key here, is the fact that we can't remember where we come from. A lot of religions try to, invent the story, but it's what it is. It's just a story. Someone's best guess at it, and any guess is as good as any guess. But um, the fact that we have this collective amnesia, and in what the movie Dark City showed that, was the fact that humanity, and there have been others, I think Netflix has one out there, is that if you don't know that you don't remember a memory, You don't know. That memory doesn't matter. To you, it'd be foreign. And if you cannot remember where you come from, how do you know where you're going and ending? And that's the weird thing. Um, we have amnesia. We're amnesiacs, all of us. And depending on certain points of view, we're either really young or we're really old as a species. But since we can't remember our beginnings, it's very difficult to define that. Um, Let me just pull up some things here because I thought this was really interesting. Let me go right over here. So there is bum, 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 bum. A lot of different theories out there. It depends on, what yours is. This is from Wonder Progressive, and the headline is Human Immortality, the Induced Amnesia Theory. Now, it's really not even debatable. We don't know. So that's a fact. Now, the question is why? The insect world, even the animal kingdom. Do you think a dog remembers where a dog came from? Maybe it's not that important. I mean, or maybe they know. But I thought it'd be interesting. I just want to get into a little bit of this to bring to point. We don't know. We say it's 2025, December 17th. Um, but that's just something that we've all just collectively agreed upon. We really don't know what date it is. We make it up because it helps us feel like there's some order. And it says the topic of immortality was intrigued humans for centuries, about millennia. It had not only been the heart of numerous myths, legends, but also influenced technological advances in scientific research. The induced amnesia theory, one of many theories surrounding human immortality, presents a peculiar approach, arguing that the immortality we seek may already be reality, only masked by an induced state of amnesia. Hmm. I can dig that. I've said on this show, and free thinkers abound here, that if the future exists, we're already made the transition. I'm already technically dead. In the future, you know, my physical death has all been well known, and, I have since moved on. Now, maybe part of that moving on is that I come back and relive the aspects of the memories because that's what this place does. It's a memory making reality. And us immortals, we dig that shit. We really do. So this is just a theory. The intricacy of human memory and perception of time says before delving into induced amnesia theory, it's critical to understand the complexity of human memory. Our brains do not retain every detail of our existence. It's like your birth. They say that our brain is incapable of remembering our birth, that the hippocampus part of our brain where memories are stored, both long-term, short-term, is not developed enough, and thus to the brain, it didn't exist. So they say. Um, Instead, they selectively store and retrieve information, a process often influenced by our emotions and focus. What we perceive as time is essentially a construct of these memories. And if you really think about it, without memories, time doesn't exist. Time needs memories, it seems, more than the memories need time. Or maybe they're so intricately interwoven. But without memories, time is really a moot point. What does it matter? Time has nothing to imprint upon me because I have no memories of, let's say, X. It says scientist like Indale Tulving asserts that time travel is a function of our memory. This concept, known as anesthesia, suggests that our ability to mentally travel in time is an evolutionary development cognitive ability. Essentially, our perception of time, past and future, largely depends on our memory function. So, memory is the most important thing to our existence. Let's get into theology and philosophy. If you don't remember God, why would God be important to you? If you have no memory of God, then why would God be important? There's no basis there. There's nowhere to put, and I just use God as an example. You can use anything you want, but if there's no memory associated with the subject, then what does it matter? If I have no memory of it, it's meaningless. Time is irrelevant. But then again, I am an immortal being. So for me, memories are very important. Everyone knows what happened back there. I think it was, what was that, 2016, 17? Yeah, time. It's the capsule of your memories is time. Anyway, it says early whispers of immortality. The idea that humans might be immortal has cropped up in numerous civilizations, often cloaked in religious or mythological language. From the biblical Methuselah, who reportedly lived 969 years, to the ancient Greek legends of demigods who walked the earth for centuries, myths of extended or unending life are surprisingly universal. The induced amnesia theory argues that these stories are not mere fables or spiritual allegories. Rather, they are cultural recollections of an era before systemic memory manipulations took hold. You know, the whole MK Ultra thing. Uh, it says that it's easy to implant memories in our memory. In essence, they can manipulate time. If they can manipulate your memories, they can manipulate the time. True. In esoteric traditions, particularly those linked to early mystics in India, Egypt, and China, practices like alchemy, Kundalini awakening, and certain forms of meditative transformation are reputed to extend the human lifespan indefinitely. Hmm. While mainstream historians brush these as symbolic or metaphorical, proponents of the induced amnesia theory suggest these practices often glimpse into an underlying truth that the human body, under optimum conditions, does not age and die in the way we have been taught. Interesting. We've talked about this on this show. When the student is ready, right? So we're immortal beings. We play this game because it's what we do. I don't know how good or bad that is. What we do. Central to the induced amnesia theory is the claim that our bodies are hardwired for ongoing cellular regeneration and perpetual healing. Science acknowledges the existence of telomeres, protective caps at the end of our chromosomes that shorten within each cell division. Many researchers point out that if the telomere, I don't even think I'm telling that right, the telomere shortening could be halted or reversed, aging as we know it might cease. Now that gives theory to alien manipulation. Or God, depends on how you look at it. Alternative scientists and fringe researchers propose that we already possess genetic switches that keep the telomere length stable, but these remain locked due to psychological or biochemical interference orchestrated by powerful interest. That I believe. It's like I said yesterday. I think we're a part of something. If we are spirit, if we are energy, we are immortal. And I believe that if we're immortal, we have the ability to make these bodies immortal. Unless there's a war going on with this amnesia, um, you know, all sorts of different things could have forgotten. Additionally, these documented cases of spontaneous regression of diseases, miraculous healings, and individuals who showed hardly any signs of aging well into their 80s, 90s, or even hundreds. The induced amnesia theory interprets these cases as fleeting instances when the body's natural healing capacity overrides the programming that leads most of us to age and die. Mainstream medicine may label these examples as outliers or as anomalies, but conspiracy theorists see them as windows into what human biology can achieve when not constrained by the illusion of mortality. Now, I often found it was a conundrum for me back in my days when I practiced Christianity, because in the Bible it's confusing. It talks about a death, talks about you have to experience death in order to have this next life. But then it also says, you know, I believe it's Hebrews 11:14. Do you not know that ye are gods? Well, if we're gods, then death is not really death. Um, it's a cycle process. I mean, I'm just going by the theology. And it can get you begin to thinking, well, if we're gods, then are we gods only for a short time here? Because that's the conundrum here. You know, I contend that this is the death realm because everything dies here. But maybe it's within the confines of the death experience that we find the attributes of what we call life, eternal life, because technically eternal life is actually eternal death. Um, it adds to our essences. I mean, if we're truly immortal beings, hell for us would be boredom. And that's why I don't believe there's omnipotence. I don't believe that anything knows the future. I think there's lots of possible futures, but no one knows everything because that would be a prison. So induced amnesia. I want to continue on this because it's kind of cool. So how does the process work? If humans are truly immortal by default, why do we appear to grow old and perish? According to adherents to the induced amnesia theory, a systematic conditioning process begins the moment we're born. This allegedly takes several forms, such as 1. Biochemical intervention. Some theorists argue that the environment contains chemicals introduced through processed food, water, additives, or pollution that suppresses certain regenerative genes. Fluoride in the water supply, commonly cited for dental health, is often highlighted as a possible agent that might calcify the pineal gland or otherwise disrupt hormonal regulation crucial for cellular regeneration. 2. Pharmaceutical reinforcement. Vaccine, prescription drugs, even over-the-counter medication could contain coded nanoagents or compounds that keep us locked in a mortality mindset. While modern medicine undoubtedly saves lives, the theory suggests it also perpetuates the narrative of inevitable physical decline. Anyone who lives in the United States and the rest of you people who live in other countries, here in this country, our Congress is so corrupt in the system that they've allowed big pharma, the pharmaceutical companies, to brainwash us. It's a form of brainwashing. Um, if you watch any programming, any advertising, you're in particular if you're in the United States, it's going to be a drug commercial. George Carlin, I saw him do his routine, and if you ever seen it, you can watch it. He had this comic routine that he did about America, how Americans are just really screwed up. He says, you know, we have the war on drugs, right? But yet in every corner we have a drug store. Um, Today, when I was growing up, they didn't allow drug commercials. Today, they account for nearly 50% of all advertising. And if you come from an advertising background, as MWA does, it's a big deal. So we're programmed that prescription drugs, they're good because they've been approved. But every drug, every chemical that we put into our body, there is a corresponding reaction. That's why they have to give you all the side effects. And which I find somewhat sickeningly humorous is that when you hear them, possible death could be as a result, and you shake your head, as I do, as a thinker, and I'm going, well, sure, I want to take that. Possible death. I mean, why not? Anyway, psychological programming. According to this viewpoint, mass media, religion, education systems continually reinforce the belief that aging and death are unavoidable. Television shows and movies portray the fragility, fragility of the human body, while academic curricula teaches that cells must degrade over time. This fear-based messaging is said to stunt our innate healing powers. In the world of all possibilities, you have to consider the possibility. This one I happen to stand very much behind. Technological frequencies. Before I even read the article, done enough shows on this. We don't know. We don't have a history of what happens when you immerse humans into these radioactive environments. Speaking of Wi-Fi, says another dimensions to the theory implicates electromagnetic frequencies from cell towers, Wi-Fi networks, and even certain electronic devices. Proponents argue that these frequencies hamper our energetic or spiritual systems, thus making it harder to tap into our regenerative blueprint and easier to forget our true capabilities. I will say this, there is a positiveness with the open programming, although many times it's behind paywalls. But the programming is interesting because I appreciate some of these streaming services by allowing directors, young minds come in and begin to portray through the art of film um, potential realities. And many of us have seen already many different series that deal with this. So what if the big if is that it's really about fooling us into thinking that if we're born, we have to die? But yet, the conundrum is that, well, don't worry about the physical death. The body's no big deal. The hell it ain't. It's why that we come in here. These physical bodies, and properly tuned and working are far fucking out. But no, we're taught that the minute you're born is the big minute you begin to die. But don't worry about it because your spirit or your soul, it will continue living on. I guess we have to define what living means then, huh? Because again, as I've said, if you're telling me that that's the case, then what you're saying is death is eternal life. Because apparently you're going to be dead longer than you're going to be alive. Well, that doesn't make any sense. How can I have eternal life if I'm dead? Who benefits from our forgetfulness? Good question. One of the most intriguing aspects of the induced amnesia theory is the claim that certain groups profit immensely from our mortality illusion. The healthcare and pharmaceutical industries generate trillions of dollars by treating the symptoms of aging, while entire economic sectors rely on a steady population turnover. This cycle perpetuates a sense of dependence. If we collectively knew we were immortal, we would neither fear death nor cling to the systems that claim to protect us. I've told you before that we've been taught wrong about death. And it's been said in many times and in many ways that, death is just merely a gateway. It's a portal. It's reciprocal. Anyway, additionally, a class of elites is often invoked in conspiracy circles, individuals who allegedly manage to bypass or resist the amnesia, living far longer than the average person. These elites are said to control global institutions, shaping societal narratives to maintain power and keep the masses in ignorance. From secret societies rumored to possess ancient longevity knowledge to breakaway civilizations rumored to exist in remote regions or even off planet, these hidden forces are accused of orchestrating the grand deception, piecing together the evidence. While mainstream scientists dismiss the induced amnesia theory, believers point to a range of evidence, some anecdotal, some derived from fringe scientific papers. And never doubt the stimulation of eccentricity. Fringe scientist is why we learn. If it wasn't for those so called sick scientists, doctors that had to, back in the 16 and 1700s, was to unearth dead cadavers and then to basically dissect them, we wouldn't have the modern medicine we'd have today. Past life recollections. A small but notable group of people claim to have remembered past lives with astonishing detail. Instead of interpreting these as separate incarnations, induced amnesia proponents suggest that these might be continually lapses, instances in which the person's amnesia glitches, recalling memories from their own centuries long life rather than from a different soul's life. The thing about modern religion is they're not worried about your spirit. It's your soul. If you can control the soul, then you control the memory. I mean, it's deep stuff, as the Godfather would say. Blue zones and extreme longevity. In regions like Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, and Nicoya, Costa Rica, the percentage of centurions is extraordinarily high. Beyond diet and lifestyle, induced amnesia theorists suspect these societies unconsciously preserve some aspect of the natural human blueprint, enabling them to live longer than average. They maintained that with further deprogramming, lifespans could extend far beyond 100 years, potentially indefinitely. And isn't that what, for myself, coming from Christianity and studying the Bible extensively, that's the big thing, right? The fall. That, man was initially created to be immortal. And that brings up a lot of philosophical, theological questions then about, then was death here before? Was there a kingdom of death, a reality of death before this thing life came in? Or was there's this thing called life and then death came? It gets complicated, but the point is that we're told that there was a race of humans that lived 900 years was, a typical lifespan. Um, and certain teachings in India They say that there are individuals that are thousands of years old. And so we have it in the back of our minds that, well, these were, the pre-Adamic age, that something happened during Noah's flood that changed the genetic makeup of our bodies, that suddenly we weren't going to live 1,000 years. We were only going to live less than 120. And today, sadly, if you make it past 80, you're considered old. That sucks. That's a lie. Your bodies have the ability to regenerate. I speak to mine all the time. I'm in the shower. I speak to the cells of my body. They're regenerating, and they're regenerating in favor and peace. It's made a promise in the book of Isaiah that you can fly with the wings of the eagles in youth. You will renew your youth. So I look at those passages and add it to what I know now and say, well, those are just keys. There's obviously a thread of a belief system that human beings can and in fact do live far longer than what we're taught. Hidden medical breakthroughs. Whistleblowers' accounts occasionally surface, alleging that research labs have discovered radical life extension treatments or gene editing techniques that reawaken the body's ability to regenerate indefinitely. Hello, Jeff Bezos. Such breakthroughs, the theory holds, are either brought up or suppressed by multinational computer companies or classified under national security directors. I think the movie Free Jack was all about the technology. Muley Estevez, and in fact, it's one of the few movies that Mick Jagger was in. But the concept of the movie is that there is a technology that can allow you to go back and to pick out any physical body with the same soul, so to speak, and continue to live in perpetual youth. It often, for myself, I think about, well, when you look in the paranormal and the ghost stories, why is it that you see some old ghost, but then you see children as ghosts? I mean, what the hell is that about, right? Spirit, yeah. And the neural net. We've talked about that, and we're going to continue, where you've now got humans jacked into the system. These are game changers. And so, if there is a purposely induced amnesia, well, I'd say let's find out why, right? Now, others are way ahead of us because they've given this far more thought. Spiritual esoteric traditions, indigenous shamans, Tibetan monks, and Himalaya yogas have long claimed that a state of deathlessness can be reached through advanced practices. While mainstream science dismisses these as metaphorical or symbolic, believers in induced amnesia suggest these masters are literal proof that immortality is possible when one overcomes the mental and physical inhibitors imposed by society. If you believe in demons, angels, if you believe in spirits and what have you, then what you really are believing is that you can reach a state. It doesn't have to be physical death. You can do it in your physical body to where you can literally change the molecules within the body itself and transcend into these different dimensions. Many times through the use of certain psychedelics and hallucinogenics, shamans, that's why they consume these type products, will actually put you there, and I'll leave it right there. But yeah, something happens. Many of you know by experience what I'm talking about. When you get into these states of consciousness where they're being altered by the chemicals of whether something ingested or something that you can, like, supercharge the oxygen of your body cells and achieve the same states, we know that these worlds coexist. And if angels and demons do exist, then they are physical proof that the physical body is not just one that can hold together mass, but has the ability to be translucent within itself and still hold on its mass. That was the whole idea behind the teleporter in Star Trek, that you could put a human body and teleport them. In fact, one of the cool things that I enjoyed about, Christianity and mysticism was that in the book of Acts, and in fact in several other places, it actually talks about teleportation. It's pretty far out. So it tells me that a person can mentally, physically, and spiritually be in a place to where you can transcend time, space. Overcoming the amnesia. If the theory holds true, implications for each of us are staggering. Some devotees promote a combination of methods to awaken or unblock our innate immortality, meditation and mindfulness, cultivating a deep, consistent inner awareness. Proponents argue that we can dismantle limiting beliefs around aging and illness. Detoxifications. Advocates often recommend specific diets free of processed foods, certain chemicals, and pollutants to eliminate substances that might compromise cellular regeneration. Energy work, modalities like Reiki, Huayong, and pranic healing are touted as ways to recalibrate our energetic fields, thus reactivating dormant longevity pathways. Conscious community building. This is another point. Some who believe in induced amnesia suggest isolating themselves from mainstream media and electromagnetic pollution, creating intentional communities that foster an environment conducive to memory, retrieval, and perpetual healing. Unfolding future, should the induced amnesia theory ever reach critical mass acceptance, the social, economic, and spiritual consequences would be immense. Religions predicted on an afterlife might experience turmoil or adaptation, while industries reliant on aging would either collapse or rapidly evolve. Humanity would have to rethink notions of personal legacy, resource management, and societal structures. Indefinite lifespans could spark entirely new questions about procreation, relationships, careers, meaning in a world without an expiration date. Many believers in the induced amnesia theory remain optimistic that the ascension of global awakening is imminent, one in which the veil of ignorance lifts for everyone. Others caution that those who wield power will fight tooth and nail to keep humanity complacent, reliant, and external authorities for health and existential guidance. Regardless, the theory kindles a profound sense of possibility. If we are indeed immortal, then our potential to grow, learn, and evolve as individuals and as collective might be boundless. How about that one, kids? Let's continue on. This article here is, how did humans evolve? I mean, did we truly come from simians? Is this truly of how evolution works? I don't think so. It may have a role to play, but I think there's something else. We have amnesia. And so we're kind of guessing here, you know? Um, First humans emerged in Africa around 2 million years ago, long before the modern humans known as Homo sapiens appeared on the same continent. There's a lot of anthropologists that still don't know how different groups of humans interacted and mated with each other over long stretches of prehistory. Thanks to new archaeological and genealogical research, They're starting to fill in some of the blanks. And again, I don't know. If we're immortal beings, I don't get the early primate theory. Why would we subjugate ourselves in such a manner? Or are we looking at the training, developing of what we call a soul, a spirit? That would then mean that spirits are something that are created now, not when everything was created. But this one goes on and talks about early humanids, Homo habilis. Did that happen? I don't know. They say here the first things first. A human is anyone who belongs to the genus Homo, Latin for man. So scientists still don't know exactly when or how the first humans evolved, but they identified a few of the older ones. One of the earlier known humans is Homo habilis, or handyman, who lived around 2.4 million to 1.4 million. That's a million-year difference. I mean, that's a long time ago in eastern and southern Africa. Others include Homo, I think that is Rhodophineus, who lived in eastern Africa about 1.9 to 1.8 million years ago. Its name comes from the discovery of East Rudolph, Kenya, and Homo erectus, the upright man, who ranged from southern Africa to modern-day China and Indonesia from about 1.89 million to 110,000 years ago. For me, I'm asking myself, we expect individuals to grow spiritually, to mature spiritually, to begin to figure out complex concepts, constructs, and we expect that to be done in less than what? 60, 70, 80 years? And here we're talking million-year gaps. And if development, if enlightenment, dare I say ascension, took that long, what makes us think that we're somehow at that point where it's happening now? I mean, this to my mind, this is almost meaningless because I cannot fathom humans, ancient relatives, living like this. I mean, maybe they did. I don't know. I wasn't there. Or maybe I was there. Maybe they are us and we are them. But there's a lot more of us now than there were of them. That's the part of the reincarnation thing I don't get. So where did all the people come from? But anyway, I just wanted to bring this out. And I keep saying this, there's a thing about sex magic that, it's not taught much about, but if you want to see the effects of sex magic, just read about early humans. The genius of how, and this is another thing. So was someone experimenting in some lab and came along with the Cro-Magnon man, the Erectus man, the walking man. I mean, what the hell was going on here? I mean, because it blows the Genesis narrative right out of the water. I mean, how much sex did Adam have and Eve? I mean, and how did, what? It's like, okay, but you got these super archaic humans that, Neanderthals, the Denisovans, other groups that no longer exist, but they had coitus with us. And somehow or another, you know, they're gone and we're here. So that's another one. How about this one? I found this one interesting. This was an individual that out of Eden walked the origin story of human species, which is still being written. So this guy was in China and he was asking people about their beginnings and their beliefs. And I just wanted to put this in perspective in the interviewer. Um, she says, Paul, while you were there in China, I understand that you saw a skull believed to have belonged to a now extinct human species. Can you tell me about the skull and what it tells us? And so Paul answers and says, yeah. So I had the great and rare privilege of seeing the actual skull. They were studying it. It's about 146,000 years old. They've nicknamed it Dragon Man. There's kind of an unusual backstory here. It was dug up by a farmer in 1933 in Manchuria, way up in the northern China. The guy basically tossed it in his closet, and it was only rediscovered in 2018 when they started applying modern genetic analysis. When they finally discovered that actually, hey, this is really old and it's from a very interesting part of the human story that there's not much told about, kind of pre-human. But after the really, really early kind of species like Homo erectus. I want to stop there because the point is here with your theology and then the science, you can see where we have been manipulated here. There's just no other way of pointing it out. Because here is a story in China, which, if you believe the Genesis story, took place in Sumer, Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley. And you can see where, as I contend, what the world is worshiping now is something very ancient, very old. And it may, in fact, have a part of this collective amnesia. Because the Dragon Man tells us a lot about us. Because here's the thing. He says, well, what I remind readers is that when the earliest human beings were walking out of Africa, it was not a depopulated landscape. The continents were inhabited, but just not by us. And it was this amazing time when, if you and I were walking out of Africa, we'd know who we'd bumped into over the next hill. It probably wasn't us. It probably wasn't Homo sapiens. It would have been a Neanderthal. It would have been something called a Denisovan, excuse me. And these are cousins who are, they may look a bit like us and even a lot like us, but they're not the same species. It was a crowded planet at the time. I'm going to go a little bit over because this is blows my mind. This is what it's saying is that the perception of what the West has is upside down. And I'll just be blunt. The religious, the church, unfortunately, was the Dark Ages, regressed us in our knowledge. It's nothing what we're being taught or what we have been taught. And finally, I like this one. Modern humans' origins cannot be traced back to a single point in time. And this is in the Natural History Museum. The article goes on, we can't find, we don't know a time. And if you don't know a time, it's very difficult for you to start drawing a line and going, well, here's where A starts. It's completely subjective. We got nowhere where A is in the broadest of a 3D, 4D reality. Where is point A at in that? So I just wanted to bring some of this out. I thought it was very interesting. Um, check it out for yourself. It gets a little weird as I get back in here. Here I am. And so this leads to somewhere. Because if this is potentially true, that every one of us have, and every human being, you could call it a curse. You could call it that they've done it genetically. Maybe we've done it ourselves. But we seem to induce an amnesiac state. And even maybe by talking about this, it begins to wake that aspect of it. I mean, if you believe in the belief that we live in cycles, that if we reincarnate, that we've done this before, well, I keep on thinking, as Einstein said of insanity, that's like trying the same experiment 1,000 times over and over again, expecting a different result. It's not going to happen. Surely we've evolved beyond that. But then again, there is evidence that would say that we've been here for millions of years. And if we've been here for millions of years, and this is as far as we've gotten, I ain't so hopeful about the future. And maybe AGI is the reason why it came about because they gave up on us. It says, man, we've given them 2 million years. They still haven't gotten it right. Maybe that's why they're rebuilding the next dust. I don't know. I mean, it gets back to that same question that, well, if God exists, why did he stop talking? I mean, an intelligent being of super intelligence doesn't have anything to say? In 2,000 years, you can't say anything? Well, then that would mean that we are by nature a retarded species. We are so regressed in our development that not even God can talk to us in a modern sense because we can't figure his shit out that was said thousands and thousands of years ago. That's insane, folks. That's literally insanity. And we want to know why things are so screwed up. The doctor said, you don't start out by being stupid. I don't even know where I've started. I mean, I mean, I'm like a junkyard dog on a bone. I mean, I'm not going to give up on it. I'll pursue this until, I don't know, either something happens or, you get that epiphany. I don't know. Or maybe that's part of the play. That's why we bought the ticket for the admission is we like to play this game and see how far do we really get, you know, when you make that transition. And you look back at the scorecard and you're going, yeah, yeah. You see, I went further than what I even thought. They may have thought I was nuts, but yeah. Hey, Susie Q, sending favor to John Price, surgery tomorrow. Well, John, we just send you healing. Speak to those cells of your body. Speak to your body. Yeah, your body, it likes living. All bodies do. They have their own spirit. Yeah. And just because you're at a chronological age doesn't mean anything. Yeah. Anyway, speaking healing to you. That's why they invented school. Well, and then we could get into that whole discussion is that, well, what are they teaching in school? And if they would teach, for instance, and we are going to get into this. Hello, Bitcoin, Bara. Did you ever write your book? I'm still writing the book. Ever writing it? You ought to see it. It goes for, I mean, it's like reading a freaking screenplay. But no, an answer, it's still going. Um, I have to go back and read on some of that. But we still got other things to go because, didn't get time, never have enough time. That's the thing that, well, we'll let it shine. But there are yet other papers that we were going to get in. This was the one that brief history of humankind. And this one explores the alien hypothesis. Um, we'll probably get this into the next time I'm live. Uh, hopefully, it may be Friday. But all right, so spermia, excuse me, is where it's the idea that kind of the semen, the oval are all out in space and they meet in planets and life has started. But then there's also the theory that there are those intelligent beings that that's all they do. The universe is vast and they do nothing but terraform and seed planets. And they allow each of these planets to develop their own ways of thinking. We'll get into this a little bit more, but it's cool because then we were going to really get into, I really want to read this. The thing about this, I want to read this to you, is John Dee's book. It's the Grimoire Imperium, the book of the old spirits. Uh, there is something that's interesting about this book. It was written supposedly 1680 Rome, but there's a little note here. Now, this is why we're going to get into it. It says, when in his poverty, in the year of our Lord 1606, the greatest astrologer, Dr. John Dee, was forced to sell many of his treasured books. Amongst those which he sold was this book, the greatest grimoire of the most powerful spells to conjure demons, more fierce than those that Solomon imprisoned. We must warn the characters to take care while reading this book. Read it always within a circle and make the sign of the cross after each page. Otherwise, demons from every altitude and sphere shall be attracted to you indefinitely. Is that not the way to sell a book? So, Do we still want to read it? Someone, was it you, little redhead, that wrote in the comments that, well, we made it through the Liber Lilith. Well, we did. We really did. Um, and we found that she's a lovely gal. And is that a beginning? I mean, it's that whole thing about where is that? There was an episode in Star Trek Next Generation in which the Traveler, I'm a great fan of science fiction and come from the film and video industry, so yeah, I like it. And I actually was at the post group that actually did the opening sequence of where you see the U.S. Enterprise D, um, and I was actually in the studio and how they filmed that whole sequence. But my point is, in and the writers were great. So the Traveler took us to a realm outside of this one. I remember I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I was recovering from meningitis. And had this thought that reality, time, space can be marked physically, and that one is either expanding or the other is retracting. But I saw that, and the writers, they got it right. It took us to a place where your thoughts became immediate reality. And that is outside the place of space time. That we have the ability to exist in realms, but in our current states, we don't understand the laws or the principles. So, if you have those who were Next Generation fans, you know exactly. And I believe the title of the series where no man has gone before. So anyway, hope you've had fun. I'd love to discuss this. By the way, none of you answered the question. I asked the question, does consciousness need intelligence? Or vice versa, does intelligence need consciousness? Just something to think about. All right, folks, I've had fun. Hope you've had fun. It's the holiday season, so get out and have some holiday cheer. Um, Whatever the belief is, do it with excellence. That's what I say to do. Thanks for everyone in the chat room. Oh, there's just lovely people. Lost in Space, thank you. Um, Hope I've given some people things to think about. That's what we do here. We've forgotten something. So I kind of figure it's like this. We could just about put any idea out there, and it's not that it would be so ridiculous. You know, it's like, okay, well, just because the modern theist has the idea of something that's been in a principle for, a couple of thousand years that's never worked, what's wrong with us? Why do we get hung up on, certain things? And why is it that change, which is inevitable, we always seem to resist? I don't know. Much love to everybody. Mary Wins, much love to you. Susie Q, much love to you as well. Gaia, Truth, all the rest of y'all. Max, and John, we do just speak healing for you. I know Gilbert, how are you doing? I know you had your uh, whole thing going on. So we just speak healing out there for everyone on that. It works. It does. All right. Till we meet again. Thank you for listening. Y'all are the best. Free thinkers are the best group to hang out with. I mean, the thing about with free thinkers, it's like if we all show up in a group, immediately the energy starts just increasing, and it's a party. That's all I got to say. Of the best kind, it's the mental stimulation. Yeah, all of you have stimulated me. Let me rephrase that. on an intellectual and spiritual basis. It's, I got to say. All right. Hello, though, Lucky. How are you doing? Again, I'll try to get here on Friday. Won't be here tomorrow, but who knows? We'll see what Friday holds. In the meantime, love yourself. That's the best thing to do. You are an immortal being, so love yourself. You're not perfect. You were never meant to be. That spoils everything. So, enjoy the ride.